I've seen some major mini miracles with some people. So,
Yeah.
I've had two people with traumatic brain injuries. So they were in accidents and they got a concussion and they never came out of that concussion. One 10 years and one 13 years. It's called post-concussion syndrome. And they rented systems from me. They first rented a system and eventually they both bought systems. And within 2 or 3 months, they were fine. And this one lady that had the concussion for 13 years, two of her therapists she was going to, they bought systems when they saw what the PMF did.
Gary, thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to hear your story. You are a PEMF therapist, and you have got a story of your own to share with us. So before we go into what that is all about, let us know a little bit about your background and what got you into this.
Well, personally, I got into pulse electromagnetic field therapy for, well, directly personal reasons. I was in a severe accident. I sheared my sacrum in two, which is the big triangular bone that hangs down in between the hips. I completely, sheared that in two. I was on crutches for 7 months. Long story short, I had 26 years of pain and stiffness. I spent $50,000 to $60,000 trying alternative therapy. I wasn't going to take drugs. And I got some temporary relief, but it always came back. And then I happened to find out about PMF about 7.5 years ago. I was a pre-med major at university, so I have a good physics and science background, and I liked all the research. There's tons of research on it, thousands of studies. It's shown to help over 100 different disorders. It's FDA approved in the U.S. for brain cancer, bone fractures that won't heal, which is up my alley, and what else? Incontinence and depression, anxiety, unresponsive to pharmaceuticals, and one form of arthritis. So I researched it for a while. I couldn't find anybody doing it. I'm in Australia, Melbourne, Australia. And so I eventually had to buy a system, and I did this treatment for a couple of times a day for a half an hour, and in less than 2 weeks it was gone, and that's over 7.5 years ago. And it's never come back. And then I started treating friends, and then because of my background, I decided I'd learn as much as I can about it and start treating people, and the business grew.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is that similar to bioresonance?
No, it's different than bioresonance. So this is a cellular charging system. So this is the same physics used in a generator, the same physics used in a pad charger you lay your phone on. That's the little PMF device. And if you turn on and off an electromagnetic field over a conductor, it induces it's called electromagnetic force, and it moves electrons. So in this case, a generator moves electrons down a copper wire. The body is a conductor, so and cells are just like a battery. They have a voltage. It's measurable. They've known that since the 20s. And if you have any chronic illness, you have any injury, you have a low cellular voltage. That's one cofactor. Health is balance. Too much of something, not enough of something. So in this case, not enough voltage. And that's, so again, any chronic illness has a low voltage. That's why this works for so many different types of disorders.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was actually reading an article about scalar energy, which is all about the electrons and how we get our electrons from being in nature, from walking on the grass, from pets, and what steals electrons, the toxins in our body and stuff like that. But it's interesting that there are devices out there that can charge the battery. Why do you think it is that we aren't hearing about these things?
I don't know. It's been in the States for at least 20 years. 30 years, it's prescribed by doctors in hospitals in Germany, Eastern Europe, Russia. Russians are very, very open to this. So, and the pharmaceutical industry has a very strong lobby too. So, but there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of that know about it. But relatively speaking, you're right. Not too many people know about it, because one of the things I hear after I've treated people, they go, "Why doesn't everybody know about this?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a lot of healing on, what's that device called? Where they put electrodes on your arms and around your head and around your ankles.
A TENS machine?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it also reads your frequencies, and it tells you what frequency parasites are vibrating at, or if you've got cancer forming before it's even started in your body.
Oh, that sounds a little bit like bioresonance. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's similar to that. Yeah. It's a kind of a biofeedback machine. Yeah, and it's picked up stuff that I didn't even know that I had. It picked up on allergies. It can tell you if you've used a hairdryer or if you've had Botox, things like that. It's really incredible. And people are saying it's pseudoscience. And, not everything works for everybody. What would you say wouldn't work for that, for what the PMF machine? What wouldn't it work for?
Well, it's everyone is very individual. So I can have somebody with the same problem, a bad shoulder, so I do treatments, and I also rent systems, and I also sell systems. I can treat somebody for the same thing, and one person has a very quick positive response, and another person, nothing happens. And
interesting.
But the ratio, it's around 75% of people that I treat, they see benefits, and the 25% the same conditions, and nothing happens, and scratch my head, and
it's strange.
But you have a lot of variables. Lifestyle, stress, that's a huge one. I mean, stress is very powerful. I've learned that since doing that. So that's stress is a 24/7 negative meditation. People sleep stressed, and the mind's
I think that's actually the critical point, is that people are, if you're going to keep being in a negative state, no matter how much you work, you're just counteracting it all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Would it help with something like sinus or allergies, things like that?
Yeah, well, it's very good for boosting the immune system, but it holistically speaking, it addresses the bioelectric deficiency. But then if you have vitamin and mineral deficiencies, you have excesses, toxins, stress. You gotta look at and what are you eating? What are you putting into your mouth, and drinking, and all of that? So it's one, but it's I've seen some major mini miracles with some people. So I've had two people with traumatic brain injuries. So they were in accidents, and they got a concussion, and they never came out of that concussion. One 10 years and one 13 years. It's called post-concussion syndrome. And they rented systems from me. They first rented a system, and eventually they both bought systems. And within 2 or 3 months, they were fine. And this one lady that had the concussion for 13 years, two of her therapists she was going to, they bought systems when they saw what the PMF did.
That's amazing. That really is.
Yeah.
What about something like Alzheimer's or dementia? Do you think it could work for that?
I've had a couple of people, and it's helped a little bit. It's also, but nothing significant. MS, I've had some pretty good results with some people, and other people, nothing. Around 50%. And also autism. So this does, PMF does not cure anything. It just increases the cellular efficiency of the cells so they can do their job better, because these conditions, there's a low voltage, cellular voltage.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but with the autism, it has a tendency to just slow things down and slow them down, and calm them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if, because I'm sure the body is a system, so there's like a feedback mechanism where maybe you're in pain, so you therefore get depressed. You start feeling hopeless, which then feeds the pain, and so on. So if you start increasing the cellular energy, your depression would also go, because you start to feel hopeful again, that there could be a future and you could have a better life. You think that plays a role?
Yeah. 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 Again, you're talking about the mind, and it's very powerful. Placebo is really real. So
Yeah.
there's placebo. You think it's going to work, and it does work, and nocebo, which is just the opposite. But what I really like is when I get a healthy skeptic come in with PMF, and all of a sudden, pain goes away, or whatever the problem was. So I know that placebo's not working. It was kind of going against it. So must be something to it. So,
Yeah. I would even think that hands-on healing would be similar to that too, because if we're transferring energy to each other, and we're bioelectric magnetic beings, then we would be transferring electrons too, to raise the cellular activity.
yeah, well, they've measured the frequency and the magnetic field of healers. These two researchers went around the world, all different types of healers, and they all have a frequency between 7 and 8 hertz, 7 and 8 cycles a second. Okay, and there's what's called the Schumann resonance, and that's called the heartbeat of the earth. And the Schumann resonance is created by, every day there's around 7 to 8 million lightning strikes around the world. Okay, and when a bolt of lightning comes down, a huge magnetic wave comes out this way, and so that's around 80 to 90 a second. And those electromagnetic waves are big waves, and they go up and they bounce off against the ionosphere. It's like a shield around the earth, and then they come back down, and that's constantly going on. And that Schumann resonance, guess what? It's between 7 and 8 cycles a second. Same.
I think that's pretty much what I was reading about the scalar energy, because that's how it is formed, because it's these perfectly shaped, is it a tetrahedron or a cubatrahedron or something like that? And it's perfectly symmetrical, and that's these ions that are in the air that are healing. And it's formed by thunderstorms and lightning from bouncing off and creating that electromagnetic wave. Yeah, that's quite incredible.
That's constantly going on. The earth has another magnetic frequency too, of around 12 to 13 cycles a second from the magnetic, the North and the South Pole. But it's not as strong as the Schumann resonance. So that's pretty interesting. And the machines that I use, they go in between 1 in 30 cycles a second, 1 in 30 hertz. So Earth-based frequencies, because all the cells, our cells, the heart has the highest frequency of around 100, 120 cycles a second. And nerves are two cycles a second, bones, 6 to 7. So we're very, very low frequency beings. And that all kind of, we've kind of evolved to this human resonance, if you will, that's been around forever.
So that would explain why, for example, Jesus could walk on water. If he's got a higher frequency, he'd be lighter physically, be able to not be so dense. It's a lot of yogis can levitate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any, before I ask you that question, do you measure the frequency of the cells before and after? Can you tell if there's been a change?
No, I don't do any measuring. We have to be careful about what you can and can't do, at least here in Australia, on measuring. You can't diagnose and things like that just because of the medical profession and the laws and so on. So there are sophisticated instruments that can measure, but they're very expensive. They call them laboratory equipment, and so not available to I'd say practitioners, unless they have a lot of money. And
well, I mean, the patient or the client would feel the difference already anyway, but it would just be interesting to see. Is the outcome then permanent? Because once that's cellular, unless I would assume that it is, unless they have a trauma that's ongoing again, like somebody with chronic stress or something like that.
No, it's not permanent. So so the metaphor is just like charging a battery. Your cells are like a battery. So the PMF will charges the cells, and you hold a charge around 4 to 6 hours, depending on how hydrated you are. Okay. Just like car batteries, when they used to not be sealed, they lose water, they wouldn't hold as much charge. So, but you'll get inertia, you'll get momentum from having that increased cellular efficiency of 4 to 6 hours. It's not uncommon. Somebody has pain, they come for a treatment, and that pain gets reduced. Doesn't go all the way. Sometimes it does, but mostly it just gets reduced on the first treatment, and that can last maybe 2 to 3 days. Other people maybe half a day, so on. So this is something that needs to be done on an ongoing basis, unless you get to the source of the problem. Why are you losing electrons? Why do you have this low energy? And stress burns electrons, I tell you, and just lowers your energy. And pain. You got a bad knee. You have low voltage there. Okay, so we're all connected. Everything's connected bioelectrically. So you got a bad knee, low voltage, that drains the rest of the body, and people will literally tell you that. Pain, it saps my energy, and that's what's going on. So with treating people, I always we have a full body mat. It's like a yoga mat. It's on a massage table. You lay on that. You do the whole body, and then let's say we have the bad knee example. Then we have a smaller applicator, and applicators are what generate the PMF. There's just big copper coils inside a foam and covered with vinyl, a pad, and then we do the whole body, and then we'll go and we'll charge even more the low voltage area. And the other reason for doing a full body mat is because where a problem manifests doesn't necessarily mean that's the single source of the problem, and many times it's the gut. I do a lot of gut-brain treatment protocols for lots of different types of disorders, autoimmune. So, we charge the whole body, then I use a pad and I localize and I I put that on the lower abdomen. So that's, that's the gut, and 70-80% of your immune system surrounds the gut. So we charge that. And then if the gut's off, it throws the brain off. The brain can throw innumerable things off. And so we we additionally charge the brain too.
That makes
And that's,
sense. Yeah. I saw somebody it was a video that I watched, who created a homemade device where he ran a copper cable from the garden up through the window and put it under his mattress, and he taped it onto his mattress. So he sleeps on that copper that's actually drawing electrons from the earth. And he said it's a magic for him. It's made him start looking younger.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard some results. I've tried it, but I'd been doing PMF for 2 or 3 years, and so I didn't notice anything. But again, there you go. There's just another example of some people notice things and other people don't. We're all vastly different.
Yes.
So there's no one size fits all for anything. Doesn't matter what it is.
So who would you say shouldn't use it? Are there any contraindications or risks?
There definitely. There's anybody with a battery operated implanted device like a pacemaker, epilepsy. Although there's lots of research that shows that it's help, but that's the manufacturer lawyers saying don't treat anybody with that. And pregnancy, again, another just manufacturer liability. The lawyers talking, because PMF increases circulation, oxygenation, it alkalizes the body, all good things for you. But so that's and also one other, heart transplant patients, because this increases the efficiency of the immune system, and transplant people are taking immunosuppressants to decrease the efficiency.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you think it is that stops people from exploring PMF? And how would you help them overcome their doubt?
Well, the people that come to me, they find out about PMF, and so it's sort of self, they're filtered. There's a huge contingent out there that are just straight down the line, medical profession. I'm not going anywhere out of there, and this is all woo-woo stuff. Even though right now there's over 4,000 studies on PubMed showing the benefits of PMF for all these different disorders. And again, as I said, FDA approved for brain cancer in the U.S., depression, anxiety, and bone fractures that won't heal. So but there's a lot of people that are definitely, they've been through the mill with the pharmaceuticals and the side effects, and they're looking for something. Just to note, 85% of my clients are females, plus 40 years old. Again, they've kind of gone through, been around the block with Western medicine, and they're far more open to this, and females are definitely far more open to doing things about their health, as opposed to males who will just kind of go into denial. The males that do come are very, very interesting males. So, and there's a big contingent. A lot of them are males of biohackers. Millennials that like gadgets to improve their health.
Interesting.
That's really grown very fast. So
that's amazing. Maybe that's a good thing, because that will be the new generation that's opening it up for the rest, because those men would be considered alpha males, or
Yeah. Yeah.
the forerunners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is that? Do you think that men are so close to it? Is it the way that men are wired?
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just, um, it just seems it's been that way. I mean, I saw that with my mother and my father. You know?
Yeah.
No, my father was, well, if you go to the doctor, they'll find out something wrong with you.
Yeah.
That was that, and I would call that denial.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, and but yeah, so this younger the generation, they seem to be open to more of this, and they're out there online, and uh, I've had a lot of people come to me because they heard Tony Robbins talking about in his book Life Force. I mean, he only mentions three. He only talks about it 3 pages. It's the book's that thick, and but he says there's not a day goes by that I don't do PMF every day, and I can see why because he would really need the energy. He
Absolutely.
expends a lot, something like
Yeah.
16,000 calories a day or something, 12 to 16,000. So,
Yeah, he's a powerhouse.
yeah.
And so if somebody wanted to start PMF, what would you advise that they look for in a PMF therapist?
Well, yeah. First of all, there's two types of PMF systems out there. So there's there's a gap. So there's the low intensity and there's a high intensity uh, systems. I'm pro low intensity because intensity determines how much voltage is created, and we're very low voltage. Our voltage is measurable, and our voltage, which is that voltage is the spark of life. It's running everything. We're fundamentally first and foremost driven by this life force, the spark of life, and it's electrical, bioelectrical. Okay. But that voltage is very low. It's 60 times less than a AA battery. So it's 25 1,000ths of 1 volt. AA battery is 1.5 volts. That's 60 times more. Um, so a low voltage system is going to, when you charge a cell, just like when you charge your car battery, you want to give it 12 volts. You don't want to give it 12,000 volts. You want to resonate with it. You want to match. Okay. So that's my principle. So low intensity PMF systems, I compare to sort of a homeopathic, naturopathic approach to PMF therapy, and then the high intensity systems. So my system matches the Earth's magnetic field. All right, high intensity systems go 10 to 20,000 times stronger, and to me that just doesn't sit right, doesn't feel right. But they knock out pain. But Dr. James Oshman, he wrote Energy Medicine, I think in 1985. It's a seminal work on the bioelectrics of the body. And he says that, that the high intensity systems numb the neural receptors. So you're just overcharging them and it numbs them. And, that's the same thing that drugs do. So low intensity systems, they'll lower the pain, but it's more of a slower, gradual healing process.
Yeah.
So healing takes time. But
Well, I'm with you. I
that's
think it
still
should
safe.
resonate.
Yeah, yeah. The high intensity systems are safe. Predominantly, they use those initially on horses. There was far more PMF done on horses because the horse community, doesn't matter if it's the U.S., Australia, is very close knit, and they treat horses with PMF, and increases circulation. They heal faster, um, and they run faster. So most of the Kentucky Derby winners, I'm sure all of them now are all doing PMF, and it's legal to do. And the same way here, race horses here, big industry. So everybody in the horse industry and any vets, they'll have heard of the PMF.
I would say that would be good for people like competitive sports people, and maybe bodybuilders also.
Oh yeah, all professional sports teams. They use PMF. The U.S. Olympic team has been using it for nearly, I think, 15 years. It's all quiet. Roger Federer did PMF quietly, and so you recover faster, increases circulation, oxygenation, so you get rid of lactic acid quicker. Muscle soreness, inflammation, it reduces. So post-match and pre-match. Djokovic, he uses PMF. And I'm sure there's a lot, but all professional sports teams, especially football teams, use PMF. It's just not talked about.
Yeah. Well, you can understand if it's competitive. They wouldn't want anybody else to know about it.
I understand Roger Federer being quiet about it.
Well, that would be better to me than steroids that are actually just going to harm the body. And
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, well, I can just tell you a little, so two of the side effects, or I call them collateral benefits of PMF. People come to me for this ache, this pain, this condition, and looking for a solution and some benefits. Is improved sleep and just more energy and reduced mental fog. Mental fog it is a big one. So I'm 74. I was at the gym at 6 o'clock every morning. I go every day, and I require about 5.5 hours of sleep. And I don't have energy issues because I'm on mine every day, and I will, because you would too if you've seen what I've seen. And the other thing I didn't tell you is, I told you that any chronic illness or any injury has a low voltage. The other thing that's very important is as we age, our cellular voltage decreases. And they've measured that, measured this in a study. And they looked at 65 to 80-year-olds versus 18 to 25-year-olds. And a 65 to 80-year-old on average will have less than 50% of the voltage of 18 to 25-year-old. And remember, that's running the whole show. Yep. Low voltage, low efficiency. That's why it takes longer to heal as you get old. So if you charge yourself a couple of times every day, you deal with that fact of life. I have a guy that up in Brisbane, he's been doing PMF for nearly 28 years, and I show pictures of him to people, and they guess he's in his 50s and 60s. He's 79. Wow. And he has COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. So his lungs don't work right, and he can't get the oxygen he needs. And that's taking care of that problem. And he found out about it. He's what is he? He's Dutch. And he had a friend in Germany and told him about it years and years ago. And that's what really started in Germany.
That makes sense.
For system to be produced and come out on the market.
So does that help his COPD? Because you said that it increases your oxygen levels as well.
Yeah. I have a guy, Paul. He was 74 years old when he found me, and he has COPD, and he contacted me because he was in an accident. He's one of the guys with the traumatic brain injury for 10 years. 74 years old, he got T-boned in an accident, has COPD, and then he had a concussion for 10 years, and he got a system, and in 3 months, so we'll see, it takes time. In 3 months, beforehand, he would run out of energy and oxygen, because of not getting oxygen, and he'd have to lay down for 2 to 3 hours every day in the afternoon. So that disappeared. His concussion disappeared 2 to 3 months. And he had a cataract disappear.
Wow.
And that was all he was doing.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You've written a
And
book
see,
called
and that's what
Recharging.
people say.
Yeah. Well, I think when you start looking into things like this, you start lining up the dots. Somebody talks about this kind of energy. Tesla, he was drawing energy from the ether. All of these things are the same thing. We're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
right.
just a matter of adapting it to work with the body. Yeah.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So just there's some simple technologies. This is a little bit sophisticated, but not too much. So like
Yeah.
I said, a pad charger for your mobile phone. That's a little PMF device. It's just going off and on, and it charges the battery. Same physics to charge your cells.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it makes me want to go out and get one right now.
And I have at least 15 to 20 people with systems with cats, and cats absolutely love it. They will come and they will sit on the mat. And I have some people that tell me their cats, so they're laying down and the cats just come up to snuggle, get warm, cats being cats, and they find out what's going on. And now they go on the mat and they'll look up and they'll start meowing till they turn the system on. And then the cats lay down. I'm to the
That's
15,
amazing.
20. Yeah, and they lay down, and then they know when they're done, and then they get up, and of course they don't thank you or anything, but cats being cats. But and
Yeah, of
and,
course.
around 50% of dogs like it too, but cats they just love it. They're wilder. They can really feel it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So, you wrote a book called Recharging Your Life. What would you say is most important about the book, and where
yeah.
can people get hold of it?
Well, it's on Amazon right now. So yeah, recharging your life. And so it's it was written to there's a few books out there, but they get a little bit too technical. So I'm trying to just put it in general terms. So it just talks about what PMF is, how it works, and then a portion of it is for practitioners. I want to duplicate myself, and this is just PMF is called the crown jewel of energy medicine, or you could call it biophysics. Biophysics is the new word for this. Dealing with the electrics of the body and studying that. So my goal is to I want to this book is to educate people about PMF, but also educate practitioners, alternative health practitioners that of all different types, because this is such a great and easy adjunct to add, and they can broaden the scope of people they can treat for disorders. I had a massage therapist in this little town in Australia, 8,000 people. First, she came to me because she was wearing out. She'd been doing massage for 15 years, shoulders, arms, and everything, aches. And then she said, "Yuri, do you think this would work?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." And and now she has 3 systems, and she's treating people for PTSD, lots of autoimmune problems going on, all these different types of things, depression. And she used to just be doing musculoskeletal stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's going to save her joints as well, but it does add more life and you can treat more people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that's one of the goals of the is the book. But most of it's just about how it is, what it is, and how it works, and looking at systems, what you need to know and things like that. Just all the practicalities, what a treatment's like and what goes on and things like that.
How do you see the future of energy medicine evolving?
Well, there's there's a lot out there. There's a lot of different technologies out there, and it is very confusing. That's another reason for writing the book. And the other problem is that there's a lot of bogus, fake PMF systems coming out of China, and so what they've done, they've made them real cheap, of course, and then it does PMF. It does red light therapy. It does far infrared therapy. It does negative ion generation. It's got crystals or amethyst, you know, in it, and they cost about 3 times as less. But there's Bryant Myers, who wrote one of a really good book on PMF, the Fifth Element. He's a physicist, so that's why I wrote my book, because it gets a little bit technical, but he's taken these mats, and he's got a spectrum frequency analyzer, oscilloscope, all these things to look at what's really coming out of them. And there's no PMF; it's radio frequency waves, not good for you. The far infrared, it's electric blanket, so it's dirty electricity, and there's no negative ion, and the red light therapy, it's Christmas tree light, so it's not strong enough. It's non-therapeutic. And you can pay $2,000 for one of those, and it does 5 different things, but it's not doing. So that's a little bit troubling. There's some very interesting stuff going on the positive side. Michael Levin, who's at Tufts University, which is a part of Harvard University, he's doing research on the bioelectrics of the body, and he's been able to trigger the bioelectrics in the body to make a frog grow a new leg. Frogs can't grow, salamanders can, frogs don't. And the difference between a frog and a salamander is when a salamander loses its leg, there's a charge of electricity, a spike of electricity that happens, and it charges the cells, and they start growing, a new leg. So they can take a frog and do that, and put a charge there, and it'll grow a new leg. So Michael Levin has somehow, it's all going to be it's all patented. He can trigger that bioelectrics in a frog to do that, and now he's working on mammals because he wants to be able for people to regenerate their limbs. And I think this guy will win the Nobel Prize, but he's scoffed at by conventional people because he's dealing with the bioelectrics and not the biochemistry and not pharmaceuticals. So that's pretty exciting.
That is very exciting. I think it would be great if you could regrow our teeth. That would be a good place to start.
Yeah. Well, we grew them at one point, so they're growable.
Actually, well, I read a book. It was a guy from Russia who actually could help people to regrow their teeth. And there was somebody who was an Indian lady who spoke English that actually could speak to people in the West about it. And she subsequently, I think she's actually passed on. I don't even think she's around anymore. And all that information's died with this Russian man. It's quite sad because there were people that could regrow their teeth. And I'm assuming it's all to do with pulling the energy from the scalar energy field.
Yeah. Yeah, I just ordered a book on scalar energy, Dr. Jerry Tennant. So he's a big PMF advocate.
Yeah. What is the most empowering message that you'd like people to have about their health and their body's ability to heal?
Well, they should definitely take a holistic approach and definitely get get more than one opinion, especially if you're going to, in the conventional medicine field. So there's a famous person, I can't remember who it is. He said, there's no such thing as incurable disease, only incurable people. So, there's always a way. And I've seen some people, and I'm sure you have too, just come back from, from the deathbed. But usually, something changed. Something has to change up here, and you got to watch your thoughts. Thoughts are so powerful.
Yep, that is for sure. Thank you.
From that.
Love that.
And even in quantum physics, they know that if they watch a particle, it behaves differently when it's not being watched. So that's controlling matter. So I think that's the most important thing is, taking a holistic approach. And if it doesn't work, then that just means that's not right for you. And keep going.
Yeah. Well, all paths lead to Rome at the end of the day. It's just finding your way. Sometimes it's not always clear. And that's part of the journey.
One person doesn't work for another,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, where can people get hold of you?
Well, they can. I have two websites. I have the U.S. website is PEMF Inc. PEMFINC.com, and then PEMF.com.au in Australia.
I'll post all those links below. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also in my book too, in the back of the book, all that.
Okay. Yeah. If somebody wanted to, say, rent a machine, but you're in Australia and they're in another country, how does that work?
Oh, it doesn't at the moment. So
yeah. So they would have to purchase a machine or be in Australia.
Yeah. You should. Not too many people that I've heard of rent machines in the U.S. So you need to find a practitioner, and as I say, go for a test drive. Because that's the first thing people ask me. Well, will it work? And I go, well, 80-20. Are you the 80% it will and the 20% it won't? I don't know. You need to have a go, as we say over here, and give it a go. And it's something that it's not a one-off. This is a cellular charging system, and some people notice things right away, but usually it takes a bunch of treatments. Just an example. I had a lady that osteoporosis, and she wake up in the morning, have level 2 to 3 pain level out of 10, and by the end of the day 5 or 7. Just been going on a year and a half. She came to me on a Monday, a Wednesday, a Friday, and the following Monday with that's about 45-minute treatment. Each time she was out of pain for the first time in a year and a half. She and her husband, he had some aches and pains too. They did their due diligence, and they bought a system. Okay. I talked to her, and she was diagnosed with osteoporosis. And I talked to her about 3 years later, and she had a bone density scan, and she had a 5% increase in bone density, and her doctor had never ever seen that in anybody. Postmenopausal, it usually goes down 5%, 5%, 5%. And I had another lady had a 4% increase. She was 67 or something like that with the system. And her doctor had never seen that before either. So, it's clinically proven to increase bone density.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, because if everything's working, then your body can keep supplying energy to the bones, which are the last probably to get anything. I think the body takes energy from first.
Well, yeah, it pulls calcium out to use it. So, Yeah, so with that one, you got to still be feeding nutritionally the building blocks for the body to take it to rebuild. But uh, uh, you know, so I had a lady with she was in her 80s, and she had a major heart problem, one of the valve in the heart, and because of that valve, one of the arteries feeding the heart wasn't feeding the heart correctly, and she lost 30% mass of her heart. Okay, uh, so her son bought her a system after the after the surgery. The cardiologist said, "You'll never get that mass back, that heart mass back, never grow back." And in 3 months, it's fine. That's all she did is PMF.
The cardiologist needs a machine.
Huh? Yeah,
The
yeah. Well, I can't tell
cardiologist
you.
needs. I think there's a place for everything, and if Western doctors were maybe trained on that, I think they've been institutionalized against that kind of thing. And it's not
Yeah,
to
yeah.
say it
If
doesn't
it was
work; they
trained,
just haven't been trained.
yeah, that's right. If it was in medical schools, then yeah, there's going to be it goes in.
Yeah,
I have 5 doctors that have systems. They can't prescribe it, but that's the only thing that's worked for them. It was a solution that was safe. So PMF, there's one side effect, and that's just initially you increase cellular efficiency, you get more metabolic waste coming out initially. So, and there's a lag time for the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, the skin, organs elimination to be able to deal with that increased just metabolic waste coming out because that due to that increased efficiency. So, but in 2 to 3 days, usually everything's working is coherent and working in conjunction, but the detoxification is usually just tiredness, and people thought, oh, I thought I was coming down with something, and then it disappears. But I've had people that rent systems, and especially athletes, and they're gung ho, and I say you gotta keep it down low and only for 15 minutes initially to let your body acclimate to this increased cellular efficiency. And people, and these athletes, and they'll go home and they'll go 15 minutes. Well, it goes to an hour. I'll do an hour and turn it all the way up. And vomiting, diarrhea, and didn't feel a thing. But I've had other people do the same thing and nothing happened. And there's another shows you that how different everybody is.
interesting. Well, it's like you
Yeah.
say, if somebody's got a lot of toxins, they are going to feel it. So it would just
Yeah.
depend on what's already in the system and maybe how much inner work they've done on themselves as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Um, well, if somebody wanted to start small today and recharge their health today, what could they do? What would you suggest as their first step?
You mean if they got a system or?
Okay, so they would obviously need to just go and try somewhere, find a therapist. What if they don't find a therapist in their area? How could they do something for themselves just to start being healthier or healing?
Well, first thing is definitely is exercise and diet. Everybody can do that.
Yeah.
Two big problems though. It's exercise and diet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean that's it. And I would definitely say then the third would be some form of meditation. There's lots of different types of meditation. I mean, you can go for a walk and that can be meditation. You know,
Yeah.
you can you can whatever, wash dishes and do something repetitive over and over, and that can be meditative. But I think that's very important too. Um, this is
Yeah, I'm
very
with you
powerful.
because that would be reducing the stress significantly
Yeah,
and also be
yeah,
pulling more energy from the quantum field or the
yeah,
scalar field.
yeah. That's right. And anything you can do to improve sleep. By the way, I have a lot of people have watches that measure their sleep, or the Oura ring, and it's not uncommon for people to, when one or two treatments, that their deep sleep with PMF will double or triple, and it's measured. So it's not, they know it. So
well, that is
and
critical. I think that's probably an amazing benefit, the most amazing, because sleep is where you get your restorative
yeah,
healing.
exactly. Yeah, and it's the deep sleep where that a lot of that happens. So yeah, and you could just pretty generally say 1/3 of the world has sleep issues to 1 degree or another.
Yeah. I suppose all our electronic devices don't help.
Yeah, 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 and that's a good point. So there's EMFs out there, electromagnetic fields, which are that's all in the school of these are bad for you, and people go, well, there's PMF, there's this EMS. Yeah, it's EMS, but it's low frequency, and it's low intensity. So the EMFs are low intensity, but they're high frequency. A cell phone is in billions of cycles a second. The system I use is between 1 and 50 cycles a second. And Bluetooth is in the millions. And also, I get every day. I get studies sent to me from this one database, and it's out there that cell phone and brain cancer. I mean, it's out there all over the place, and it's not reported on. I mean, there's one study, just people, they found like the cancer grew on the side of the the face that they holding their phone, and then you got the earbuds, with Bluetooth going at whatever 2.4, whatever it is, 2.8 and 5.6 million cycles a second right into your brain. And the brain's going at 15 cycles a second.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like things. Even if I'm on my phone, I have it away and it's on speaker.
Yeah, yeah. And or I use I use wired headphones, and then I can keep even the phone even further away. But I'm known to talk on my phone and lay on my PMF mat, so I'm a bit of a heretic too. So nobody's perfect.
You're still, well, you're counterbalancing. I used to teach fitness classes, and I had a lady eating KFC while she was exercising in one of my instructor's classes. I understood the logic, but it wasn't really logic. That was just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, thank you so much for sharing. I think that it's going to help a lot of people. And I think it's definitely something worth looking into. It's a lot less invasive, longer lasting, healthier, I mean, in every aspect. So I cannot see how it could cause any harm, as you say, unless it's somebody with a pacemaker or seizures or something like that. Great. Well, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah.
And,
okay. All right.
I'll keep you
It's nice
posted.
meeting
Thanks.
you.
Likewise. Okay.
Okay.
Enjoy.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.